So I would like to begin by saying hello and welcome to the Cooperative Way, a series of conversations and webinars for the cooperative movement. Today we will discuss and debate the topic of are cooperatives key actors in education. We will get to hear firsthand, as you can see, from panelists in Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas about the role cooperatives play in formal and informal education at all levels, from elementary schools all the way up to university degree programs. I am, as you can see, pleased to share that we have right now at about 110 participants who have joined us today, and I thank you so much, everybody, for coming. My name is Zuraidah Hoffman. I am the Communications Manager for the 33rd ICA World Cooperative Congress that will take place on the 1st to 3rd December, both online and in person in Seoul, Republic of Korea. I am joining you from my home office in Washington, DC, and I will be your moderator today. This 90-minute session takes place within the Framework Partnership Agreement Cooperative signed between the ICA and the European Commission in March 2016. The program seeks to strengthen the cooperative movement and its capacity to foster international development through policy, knowledge building and sharing, networking, and visibility actions. This conversation today is also taking place under the banner of Towards the World Cooperative Congress. The theme for this event is deepening our cooperative identity, and as part of cooperative principle number 5, education, and the role of cooperatives in this arena will certainly be a hot topic. So I think we can safely say that all of us by now are used to meeting and attending events online, just like we are right now. But to make sure that we all have a productive session today, I do have a few instructions to share with you, so bear with me. The main language of today's webinar will be English, and interpretation from English to Spanish will be available. So if you'd like to listen to the conversation in Spanish, please click on the globe icon, which is labeled interpretation, in the bar below and choose Spanish. If you have any questions throughout the session, please put them in the chat and Q&A boxes. My colleagues are working hard in the background to assist us. Today you'll hear from our panelists, which I will introduce in a few moments. However, we also want to hear directly from you. If you'd like to ask a question or share a comment directly and be part of this conversation, raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, which we all know well by now. We will unmute you and turn on your microphone to make sure you can be part of the conversation. Now, to make sure we get to hear from as many people as possible, I ask that you limit your comments to about 1 to 2 minutes. I will be moderating today's session, but I have 3 hardworking, maybe more, colleagues working in the background today. I have Andrea Theodora, Georgia Papuzzi, and Ines Segui, who are working very hard in the background. So if you have any issues with the audio or video, or you have any questions for us, please let us know. Put it through the chat box and we'll do our very best to respond. And lastly, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded, so we can share and refer back to this session in the future, as I'm quite confident it's going to be quite interesting. So to kick it off, before I bring in the panelists, I think we're going to start by asking a question with a poll. And the first question is easy. And the question is, are cooperatives key actors in education? So if all of you can take, we could take just a few minutes to answer. If all of you can simply click on the answer, take your pick, we'll give it a few minutes. Are cooperatives key actors in education? And submit your answer. And Andrea will tally the poll in a few minutes, in a few seconds rather, and let's see what everybody thinks. And we'll go ahead and kick off the session today. I'll give it a few more minutes. I think I know what everybody's going to say, but I think it's always interesting to just, as a baseline. All right. We'll wait a few more seconds. Oh, here we go. All right. So are cooperatives key actors in education? 72% says definitely yes. 11% with I think yes, but I'm not sure, which is valid. And split 8 to 9% between I don't think so. Well, hopefully you'll learn something from this session today. And as about 10% of you have responded, I don't know, I'm here to learn. That's fantastic because it's exactly what we're going to do today. So let's begin then. So to kick off our conversation, Bruno, I would like to invite you. Let me introduce Bruno Verlot. He's the Director General of the ICA. He's going to make a few welcoming remarks. Bruno has more than 30 years of experience in the cooperative movement. And before joining ICA as the Director General in 2018, he was the Secretary General of SICOPA, the sectoral organization of the ICA for industry and services for 16 years. Bruno, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Zuraidah. Thank you so much, and welcome to everybody to this webinar. Now, education, I will try to explain you in a few minutes that education is really central to cooperatives and to the cooperative identity. And also, I'll try to explain you also why cooperatives are so important in the field of education. First of all, let's go to the fifth cooperative principle: education, training, and information. It reads like this. It begins like this. Cooperatives provide education and training for their members, elected representatives, managers, and employees, so they can contribute effectively to the development of their cooperatives. In fact, we already find a reference to cooperative education very, very early as the first cooperative standards that were elaborated by a consumer cooperative in Rochdale, near Manchester, in 1844. These Rochdale principles gradually extended all over the world, and the birth of the ICA in 1895, of course, facilitated that process. And along this process, which started in 1844, cooperative education has been the most constant cooperative principle, together with the other one of democratic member control. Why has cooperative education been so fundamental since the beginning of the cooperative experience, together with the democratic member control? But think about it. If you want democratic member control to function, if you want the members, the co-owners of the cooperative, which is both a business and an association of persons, to be able to take strategic decisions together, these people need to understand the decisions they may take in the first place. How can they do so without having a minimum of education and training in how a cooperative works? So education and training are consubstantial to the practice of democracy in a cooperative. It's fundamental for members to take responsibility, to be able to work together and to solve the problems together. Education then becomes a key driver of productivity and innovation in cooperatives. So until now, I've been talking about cooperative education as something which is aimed at exercising members' democratic control. But the fifth cooperative principle has another part, and which I will read now. Cooperatives inform the general public, particularly young people and opinion leaders, about the nature and benefits of cooperation. This sentence is in fact a commitment that goes beyond cooperatives themselves. It introduces the concept of informing and therefore also teaching people outside the cooperative movement about what cooperatives are about, as well as the benefits of cooperation. The recommendation 193 of the International Labour Organization on the promotion of cooperatives, voted in 2002, is even more specific and recommends the following, I quote, "National policies should promote education and training in cooperative principles and practices at all appropriate levels of the national education and training systems and in the wider society." In fact, cooperative education is not only about cooperatives themselves or about the components of the cooperative identity of the cooperative business model. It is also education to cooperation more in general. Remember, the fifth principle I just mentioned, it talks about the nature and benefit of cooperation. So we're talking about a type of education that lays the emphasis on cooperation rather than on competition. And in fact, if you think about it, education is never neutral. And cooperative education necessarily entails its own cooperative approach to life in general, to humanity, and to the world, a world vision. This world vision of cooperative goes in the direction of what sciences, and especially neurosciences today, are now discovering or rediscovering, that humans are naturally driven towards cooperation. And this vision of the world also corresponds to what a series of key pedagogues and thinkers have been developing for decades already, such as Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, Maria Montessori, Celestin Freinet, José María Arizmendarrieta, John Dewey, Paulo Freire, Ivan Illich, and others. It's a type of education that combines learning to be and learning to do. First of all, learning to be situated, be in peace, be together, be benevolent towards others. And learning to do together, to interact with people, to cooperate in a life experience, a process of building capabilities. So education in this light is not only an act of transmission of knowledge, it's more than that. It's an education that allows the exercise of our capabilities to make purposeful and informed choices and decisions. And it therefore also prepares the leaders of tomorrow. It's an education that makes us freer, more humane. And in fact, it calls for a holistic theory of cooperative learning. Now, cooperative education has developed along the past decades in different ways, through different channels. Roughly, we can distinguish between cooperative education in learning by, on, and through cooperatives. First, learning by cooperatives. We estimate that there are about 2,500 cooperatives that are teaching institutions in themselves. Learning on cooperatives, education and training which happens in cooperatives, in the educational system, at primary and secondary level, vocational training, education in university, and lifelong learning. And then you have also learning through cooperatives, and this is very important, through a cooperative experience, cooperatives of pupils, cooperatives of students, that where the learning experience is a real living experience of being a member of a cooperative. And these various channels through which cooperative education manifests itself are in fact complementary. Each has its own strong points. So dear participants, this is the first webinar on cooperative education we are having here at the ICA. And as Zuraidah said, we really hope that you will be able to interact with us. We really need your feedback for in order to move ahead. And we will have other webinars. We hope to have another one this year, and also the World Cooperative Congress, which Zuraidah also alluded to, that will be convened in Seoul in December, as she mentioned, and online as well. It will have a key session on cooperative education itself. Yeah, and so it will focus on the relation between cooperative education and cooperative identity. So I really hope that you will also be able to join the Congress later this year. Meanwhile, please enjoy these few minutes, this little moment that we have to share together. And if not during the meeting, after the meeting, at least, we hope to have your feedback, because it's very, very important for us. Let's enjoy this moment together. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Bruno, very much. So next, I am pleased to introduce our next panelist, who is from my home country of Malaysia. Dato KAMARUDIN Ismail is the Deputy President of the Malaysian National Cooperative Movement, also known as ANGKASA. He also serves on ANGKASA's School Cooperative Committee, and Dato KAMARUDIN, of course, serves on the ICA Board of Directors. Selamat datang, Dato. And I will begin by perhaps asking you to tell us our cooperative key actors in education. Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Zuraidah. Okay. And also our fellow participants. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving the ANGKASA and Malaysia in general to share our experience on this topic today. The question is, are cooperative key actors in education? Well, in the Malaysian context, with specific focus on our school cooperative movement, we strongly say yes. Cooperative is one of the primary key actors in education in Malaysia. As some of you have already known, in Malaysia, cooperative are established in over 2,400 secondary schools with membership of over 1.6 million individual members. And we are talking about school students between the age of 12 and 18 years old who not only became members to the school cooperative, but also run the operate the stores and business activities for their cooperative. And besides that, I would like to say that the total turnover of the school cooperative in Malaysia is ringgit Malaysia is 256.4 million. And the total asset is about 368 million. So I could say that is quite enterprising and quite something that the figure that we can also say is that is very enterprising. So well, I would like to say that maybe in the history of our school cooperative, and our school cooperative has already begun over 50 years in the development of school cooperative in Malaysia. Way back in the late 1960s, the founding president of ANGKASA and also the Rochdale Pioneer Award recipients, late Professor ANGKASA, initiated the partnership with the government to establish 9 pilot school cooperatives. The initial idea for this was to educate students on the basis of saving, thriftiness, and independence. At the same time, provide basic business exposure that is appropriate to the socio-economic of students at that time. And we need to understand that, okay, in 1967, there was a government gazette introduced to shape our education system in Malaysia, which is divided into curricular and co-curricular activities. So curricula is basically the normal syllabus or the typical education and learning in class, where students will be assessed by methods of national examinations, and this make up into certain percentage of marks that will be tailed with their co-curricular activities. Co-curricular, on the other hand, which includes school cooperatives, are extra activity which are made compulsory to students in order for them to gain merit profits. So the combination of both examination and also merit point will be used by the ministry in order for them to screen university application by students and for the student to gain entrance to local public universities. Well, and now we can say that it's cooperative key actors in education and character building in school, right? Having cooperative in school help in creating a practical environment for students to practice the management and business technique taught in the class. For example, when they are taught business subject, such as commerce or other entrepreneurial subject in class, they get all the information from their teachers and from their textbook, but they get to really do the hands-on practical while operating and managing the run of their cooperative business operation after school hours. This is the concept that we want to imply to the student. But they actually doing by learning, learning by doing, as well as doing and learning when they join the school cooperative. So being in school cooperative also encourage cooperation and teamwork among the students. Getting involved in cooperative will encourage the student with positive attitudes toward unity and spirit of teamwork. Cooperative in school have to instill democratic character and element in young generation. School cooperative function just like any other normal adult cooperative. You have election for board members They run their annual meeting, table of financial reports, actually what you have in the adult cooperative. And you will also have it in school cooperative. So as being a member, students get to practice democratic way and system. They get to experience to have own right and responsibilities as members of cooperative. Well, we have a lot of testimonies how being a student members actually help the student, especially in building leadership quality among younger generation. Being a cooperative help build their characters and develop self-confidence among the students, as well as their businesses, and it helps them build integrity, especially having the experience in managing their business for their members. School cooperative impact towards communities. So this is something very interesting. So apart from bringing good impact to the character building of students, members school cooperative are also helping the communities. It provides business opportunity for communities as the product of services required as closely related to the needs and wants of students at large. Some successful cooperatives also provide job opportunities among local communities, and they were hired to work at the shops of cooperative period. And we are looking at the school cooperative stakeholder. So let me bring you back to your question or the theme today, which I have already answered before. Yes, and in our context in Malaysia, cooperatives are key actors in the education system, especially when we talk about school cooperative. While ILO 193 in 2002 recommended for cooperative to be in curriculum at all levels of national education system, our way of practice for the past 50 years worked well for school cooperative in Malaysia. And we have time and time again shared the secret of our success. Basically, it is no longer a secret. Continuous partnership among stakeholders involved in the promotion of school cooperatives in our country. For us, cooperative to be key actors in education system, we work hand in hand very closely with our Ministry of Education. And in 1989, the Ministry of Education made it compulsory for all secondary schools to form cooperative. With such mandate, cooperative are accepted and recognized as one of the most important co-curricula in our school education system. Our Cooperative Societies Act 1993, which under the preview of our co-op register, the Malaysian Cooperative Societies Commission allows students from the age of 12 to become members of school cooperative. Cooperative Institute of Malaysia provide generic training programs. And ANGKASA SFX support in cooperative identity training as well as business development activities. And of course, none of this support system may not work without having the active participation from the school, especially support from the school principal, dedicated teachers, and enthusiastic students. Well, Zuraidah, all in all, in Malaysia context, cooperatives are key actors in education because cooperatives are within our education system, and all the relevant stakeholders plays active role in making sure continuous development and sustainability of cooperative education among younger generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dato. That was very enlightening. And I think I mentioned to you when I spoke with you the last time that I grew up in Malaysia and I didn't know much about the cooperative education structure in Malaysia. So I, for one, have more knowledge about that now. Before I bring on the next panelist, I see that two of our attendees have their hands up. Hector, I would like to invite, as I said in the beginning, it would be good to include some of you into the conversation, I think, just to break things up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what people have to say. So Hector, I think Andrea is giving you the floor to, and you will be, if you see yourself on the screen, I invite you when you're ready to pose your question to us or to whomever it is that you would like to have your question answered. Andrea, can we unmute Hector? Give Give us one moment. We're probably just working out the details from the back. Oh, there we go. Hi, Hector.
Hello, Zuraidah.
Hi.
I have a problem with the language. I speak Spanish.
Yes. Oh, I should repeat. Okay, that's an easy one. If you go ahead and click on the interpretation globe at the bottom of your screen, and you can select Spanish.
In this moment, have a connection with other PC.
Okay.
For access the translation.
Okay. Tell you what, Georgia or Andrea, if you can take this offline with Hector and please make sure that he's given the assistance he needs, that would be fantastic. All right, let's see here. And I will remind everybody, I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody, we do offer Spanish as a language channel. If you would like to hear this webinar in Spanish, just click at the bottom of, there's a bar at the bottom of your screen with the globe. Click on it and select Spanish, and you should be able to hear everything translated or interpreted into Spanish. And if you have any other audio or video problems, go ahead and put it in the chat. Georgia and Andrea are ready and standing ready to help you, to respond to help you with any issues that you might have. It might just take a little time, so I ask you to be a little bit more patient with us. I'm going to go on to the next panelist, and I see a couple more hands coming up, but let's hear from our next panelist, and then I will bring on some more members of our audience to ask a few questions and join us if we could. So again, thank you, Dr. KAMARUDIN. We'll come back to you probably in a bit with some other questions that we might have. Next, we have from Brazil, we have Jeane Ferreira from Brazil. She's the Manager of Human Development in Cooperatives at the Brazilian Cooperative Organization. She's been in this role since 2016 and is responsible for education solutions focusing on leadership for the Brazilian Cooperative. Jeane, welcome. I'm happy you're here. Please, the floor is yours.
Hi. Hi. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for our participants from many countries and many different times together today to talk about the importance of education for cooperatives. How she said, I am Jeane Ferreira. I am from Brazil, and I am talking from my home office in Brasília, the capital of Brazil. For me, it's a big pleasure to represent Brazilian co-ops in this event. For quite some time now, we have been doing projects to improve co-op education in the formal and informal education in Brazil. Here in Brazil, we have the SESCOP, is the National Service for Cooperatives Learning. It's responsible to improve the cooperatives members and employees, and I will talk about this. Before I answer the quick question, are cooperatives key actors in education? I'd like to talk about some important projects about co-op education we have in Brazil. First of all, we have the Cooper Jovem project. This is how we offer the basic level Brazilian schools information about cooperatives. We train the teachers about principles and co-op's values. Every year, we have about 100,000 benefited students, more than 500 schools, and more than 4,000 teachers. This is the oldest project from Brazilian Cooperatives Organization. In this project, the cooperatives are like a godmother to the schools. The other project is Aprendiz Cooperativo, something like the apprentice. This is destined to prepare youngers from 14 to 24 years to their first job. There are two main approaches, theory and practice. Also, there is a tutor working from inside the co-op to help the youngers. In this project, we train about cooperatives principles and values too. The other important project we have in Brazil is Somos Líderes, or We Are Leaders. This project is for young adults. In this case, the ages is between 21 to 35 years. In order to participate, they must be members or employees from the cooperatives. The main objective is prepare these youngers to become leaders in the cooperatives and society in general. The other project, this is the most new project, is Universidade Cooperativo or COP University. In this case, we will training the possible employees for the cooperatives. The objective is hope the cooperatives to prepare their trainees about leadership, cooperative governance, and other important themes or things about the cooperatives. When we talked about the importance for the financial education, we can see the potential for the co-ops contribute for them. For that, we have a partnership with the Brazilian Central Bank since 2014, where we train people to teach financial education for the members and employees for the cooperatives. Other important information is about our schools, our cooperative schools. In Brazil, we have 2 cooperative schools in Mato Grosso and Rio Grande do Sul, our states in Brazil. We have ESCOP and ECOP, but we have 2 education cooperatives. All these schools work with formal education for cooperatives members and the society in general. Lastly, but not least important, is the CapacitaCop project. This is our program for the distance education for the Brazilian cooperatives organization. We have lots of courses for the cooperatives and people in general. All of these projects are managed by SESCOP, National Service of Cooperatives Learning. To become true, all of these projects, the Brazilian cooperatives are important partners. For that and other things, we believe that the cooperatives are the key actors in education. They have big responsibilities to contribute for a better society, and education is for sure the way to achieve it. Thank you for your attention, and I will be here for answer possible questions.
Thank you, Jane. I have to say that the financial literacy part always catches my attention especially with children and education, and there's not enough of that. And I think you have a couple of your former students or students here with us today who have benefited from cooperative education in all levels in Brazil. So I'm very happy to see it, and I will have some questions for you about this because I'm very curious about a few things. All right, so I'm going to try this again. I would like to bring some participants into the room with us, with a panelists. David Smith, if you could, there you are, you've been brought in. Your hand's been up for a while. Would you care to share with us some of your thoughts or some of the questions you might have for one of the panelists? Good morning to you.
Hello,
good
everyone.
Afternoon.
Hello,
Hi, David.
everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I was incredibly impressed by the Malaysian presentation. And one of the difficulties that we have in Wales, which is one of the 4 countries in the UK, is that cooperatives normally have been seen as an extracurricular activity, something that happens at lunchtime or after school, and therefore it's been marginalized. So my question really concerned, why does there not appear to be any formal approach to cooperative education inside the formal curriculum, where pupils are actually assessed and tested as part of a required program for achieving attainment at whatever level? That is my question. Thank you.
That's a fantastic one. Dato, KAMARUDIN, would you like to take a try at this one?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, David. Okay, as I mentioned that in Malaysia, okay, that cooperative in school cooperative in Malaysia is part of the extra co-curricular activities. Meaning to say that co-curricular activities, not only school cooperative, we have all kind of clubs, societies, uniform, and including school cooperative. And as I mentioned that the merit of this school cooperative as part of the extra co-curricular activities, okay, the government, okay, is our examination is not only depending on the curricular examination that is based on 90% on solely academic. 90% is solely academic, what you study, all right, in the classroom, okay? And the 10%, okay, come from the extra co-curricular activities. So this is where the students who are interested of joining any clubs or societies, uniform bodies, and also school cooperative. And they are allocated with this 10%, and then the combination between the extra co-curricular activities plus, okay, the academic, it will make 100%. So this is where we are giving students, you know, an opportunities where not every students are excel in the academic, but well, they can get quite a good merit in their co-curricular activities. Okay, David, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dato KAMARUDIN. I have to inform everybody that these questions are coming in and more hands are being raised. And I think we have sorted out the issue that we had with Hector, and I do apologize for the difficulty, but Hector will bring you in after the next panelist. And I think we've got the language issues resolved. So let's bring in our next panelist and we'll continue on with more conversations and questions. Next, I'm very pleased to bring on Mr. Sibuniso Madlofa from Eswatini. He is the Executive Director at Junior Achievement Eswatini, or JA Eswatini. During his role as CEO in this organization, he led the introduction of a very successful school cooperative program. I'm very happy you're here to join us today. Please, the stage is yours. Oh, hang on one second. You have to unmute your mic there, Sibaniso. There we
Okay,
go.
thank you.
You very much.
Thank you, Zuraidah. And thank you everyone for participating, and also greet all those who are participating remotely too. So I think mine is it's more of a story that I will tell from an experiential point of view, because and then it answers directly the question of, is cooperative or are cooperatives key actors in education? And the answer for this one is a resounding absolutely yes, because of various things that have really taken place over the years that have made us really shape things the way we do. So how does, because then as I go through these in the next 5 minutes or so, it will then answer almost all the questions. So for starters, I think I am happy with what David, is it David? Yes, David Smith has just asked and really shared about ways. And that's the current situation even here at Eswatini. We have young people who are being taught the mainstream curriculum. We've got young people who go through up to university and they come up, they do not have jobs. They've got very little skills outside the main curriculum. They have also got very little financial literacy skills. And as junior achievement, our task was then to prepare young people for a world where they can create employment instead of seeking for some. And that is where our entrepreneurship model came in. And one of the challenges that we experienced as we're unleashing this entrepreneurship program was then these young people are now here in front of us, but they do not have the right financial literacy skill. They do not have where they can get the money. And that is when now we thought, hang on, we have our financial literacy program, but does it really speak to the needs that are on the ground for these young people, and especially addressing entrepreneurship shortfalls in terms of funding their programs and in also having them work together? And then that is when, therefore, this cooperative idea was given birth to. I said, wait a minute, probably it's high time in our financial literacy program, cooperatives become the center of our financial literacy program. So it came in as a financial literacy program. So here it was teaching students about the basics of money, how to bring money from different actors and different colleagues or different fellow students, put it together and also use it in a cooperative form, and we also pursue cooperative entrepreneurship. We also looked into issues of now that you have, even as an individual, are you able to join a cooperative, save, start from there? Can you save? Can you have the patience to see yourself through saving and growing your saving? Once you have achieved growing your savings, what are you going to do with that money? Then that comes the layer which we really wanted Mr. Ismail to really help us with, in terms of now saying, how then do we take it to put it together with the entrepreneurship model, taking it forward? So the way it was is such that it was difficult to go into schools because all teachers are focused on finishing the curriculum. We've got very limited time. We need all the students here. So students had together to do this financial literacy program, which is the cooperatives, in their own spare time. They also had to come in Saturdays, and it was a huge success because they had to come together. They were taught about the principles of cooperatives, how to form one, how to manage one. And the key thing here is the students were managing the cooperatives themselves, not junior achievement helping them to manage the cooperative. Junior achievement was training them on how to run a successful cooperative. So they would have their own treasurer, they would have their own bank account, they would all have their own constitution, they would have their own program. And that is how then they learned to be hands-on in terms of managing a cooperative. The only thing that we then did was to identify a cooperative that is established that could then help them in handling the finances part, because they are young people, probably they cannot be having that much knowledge in terms of the banking system and all the regulations that are in place. So this cooperative was sort of an underwriter for these young cooperatives. So we identify those, and then we put them under those cooperatives. So they help them with also these students now were able to even read their financial statements based on their cooperative savings to see how much they've saved. So for them to even understand that, that's the financial literacy that cooperatives brought into these young people. And the answer then to the question says, it then differentiated a student that has participated in cooperative from one that did not. The one that did not participate in cooperative cannot read a financial statement, does not know how to save, and cannot use the power of coming together and putting even those small coins and making a big amount of money to then achieve a common goal. So those were the things that were standing aside. And as we're doing this project, we then made sure that we publicize the results, we keep informed the parents and everyone that were role players. The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, where cooperatives are housed in the country, was very much involved. They came in on board and they supported the initiative. And this is how then we're able to, at a very small scale, to then overcome the barriers, because government then became interested and said, wait a minute, there's something happening here. Students are saving an astronomical amount of money from their pockets. And this was the thing. Students were not allowed to ask for extra money from their parents to save. They were taught how to budget from within the money you were given. You do not live outside of your means and then ask somebody to sponsor your new habit of saving. No, you are allowed to then look at your earning, whatever income that you have, budget, forfeit some things, some wants, and concentrate on needs, and then use that money to save. And that's the same savings that would make you participate in a cooperative. And that's how this whole thing gave birth. And I can tell you, in 6 months, the students were able to save something over 30,000 US dollars. And there were few students that were participating in that program. It was the zeal, it was the passion, it was them buying into the vision. And it made the head teachers in the different schools to start paying attention and subsequently giving more time to these students, and further requesting more students to participate in the program, because we were result driven. And this is my closing point, because I'm not sure how much into time I am in. We believe that entrepreneurship, cooperative is an enabler for entrepreneurship. If you get the cooperatives right, it will catalyze entrepreneurship at a very, very high level, because students will have resources to execute their ideas. Students will use the power of coming together to work on an idea and see it to fruition. But also students will have a financial literacy acumen that will help them survive in life, post-school, and even in individual. And this reduces issues of unemployment, and it makes young people to be active participants in their own economic adventures. And then it changes them from being job seekers to be job producers, just using very basic, simple skills of cooperatives. And hence we are saying cooperatives can enable education to be fruitful to the students and catapult entrepreneurship to a practical level. I thank you.
No, thank you. That was very inspiring, and it sounds like every parent with young children should be sending them to you, Mr. Matlofa, just to learn about financial literacy. No, that was fantastic. I already can think of a bunch of questions going off in my head, and I think bottom what I'm observing or listening is that because cooperatives tend to understand more deeply the needs of the community, is why it works more with the young, starting from young. At least that's my observation and my knowledge of financial literacy within this group, at least. Anyway, so let's go on to another question from a member of the audience, if we could. I see, and I've been Noor Azlina Sharif. I don't know where you're from. I suspect it might be from. Where are you? Hang on, let's see you pop up on the screen. There you are. I think your mic is going to come on pretty soon. Thank you, Andrea. And let's hear your question to our panelists or comments that you'd like to make. One moment. Can we unmute her, Andrea? We'll give it a few more seconds. You might be having technical issues in the background. Hang on. No, Aslina, I've been told that you have to accept the invitation to take the floor. If you could, I'm not so sure what the technicals on your side is. That might be just you accept. If you could do that, and you can ask us your question. Nope. Oh, there she is again. All right, I'm going to have to move on soon. No, Aslina, can you accept the invitation? Oh. All right, I think I'm going to move along for now. All right, how about we take this later? Andrea, how about we just bring Aslina back after we have our last panelist? Can we do that? And then let's carry on for now. Thank you, Andrea. And last but not least, of course, is I'm always very happy to introduce our final panelist, Ms. Ana Aguirre from Spain. Ana is the co-founder of Zuraidah, founder of the Young European Cooperative Network, and is also the representative for the European region for the ICA Youth Network, among many other things, as we know, as those of us who know her. So Ana, I invite you to unmute your mic and to please take the stage. Thank you, Ana.
Thank you so much. Yeah, among so many other things. Yes, especially in our co-op, and no one can just stick to a tag, it seems. So yes, I am Ana. I am from the super well set CEBAES that it's always a challenge for people that are not from the Basque region, but for all of you to know, it stands for And Why Not, which is the name of our co-op, which is always a great story starter. Yeah, and I've been working in education linked to my co-op since the very beginning in 2009, we can say. Yeah, and I wanted to bring to this table the two perspectives that I always look into when we talk about cooperative education. That it's on the one side, for me, cooperative education can mean two things, right? So one is if the school or the institution is a cooperative, so that means that you are standing in a cooperative environment, but it doesn't necessarily teach cooperativism as a core value, but it's a co-op environment. So, the values and the things we stand for as co-ops stick to the people that are in the community, but not by it bombarding you with messages, but because of you live in that environment. No? You become more cooperative in practice, let's say. And then the other one is when the content itself is the model. So you teach cooperatives as a subject or as the main curriculum content. So for me, those are the two, right? And I wouldn't know, and I will always say that both of them are very, very meaningful because both bring, combined, both bring what I think it would be like a more holistic cooperative understanding. Because you can teach cooperativism, but unless you live it or you experience it in your own body or your own actions every day, it's kind of difficult to really picture. Sometimes it feels too utopic, someone is like biased. Sometimes it depends on who you tell or who talks to you can have one experience or the other. So for me, always the best way of learning is on experience. So if you're in a cooperative environment and you learn co-ops, then your understanding of cooperativism will be much better, I think, or at least you will be more critical with the model as it should be. The fun part about co-ops, and I give you a little bit of context here. I come from the worker-owned co-op environment, and I will always stand for that model as the utopia of co-ops. So I always stand by the fact that cooperatives should be worker-owned or multi-stakeholder, but always involving workers, because I do believe that that's the most realistic model of co-ops, where really the power falls into the hands or is shared with those who live the co-op day and day. So the beauty of that is that the co-ops, because they are very participatory and very democratically owned and oriented and managed, they can't cease to teach. Education is very, embodied in the whole structure, because if you need to take decisions about what is going on with your company, you will always need to learn. So in cooperatives, for me, lifelong learning, it's mandatory, it's in the structure, and it's embodied in the model, which makes me very happy. And from Tasevaes, in our very specific case, we make very sure that people that not necessarily come from the co-op movement before they come learn the movement, but also they learn that they need to learn about the company in order to be part of it. Now, for the cooperative education that I think of when I talk on entrepreneurship cooperative education, my best example is always one that I was educated on and that we now run, that it's a Team Academy or Mondragon Team Academy, or in our case, Traveling University, that it's a course on cooperative entrepreneurship in practice. And what does that mean is, as I stand for the message that I sent at the beginning, is when you really learn is when you do. And these people learn about co-ops by creating co-ops. As young as they are, and the structure in the university, they are part of the structure that involves the degree, but they are also doing in a cooperative way. And for me, that's the beauty of Traveling University. You take 18 to 20-year-olds and put them together, create their own co-op, and they can decide to do a co-op after they graduate or not, but at least they will have the knowledge of whether they like the model for themselves or not. Because for me, what is interesting is that it is impossible to have young people or old people, for that matter, creating co-ops if they don't know the cooperative model exists, right? So we need to make sure that it's taught in as many places as possible. And I not only think of formal university or formal educational institutions, I talk about environments, I talk about towns, I talk about, when you talk SDGs, why not co-ops, right? That it makes such a great match. So I think my final or most relevant point will be, we need to go beyond our comfort zone as co-op members and start talking co-ops with those people that do not naturally gravitate towards the co-op orientation, because we have that tendency, right, to become a lot more outspoken where we are among colleagues. Everyone has that. Everyone's more comfortable when ideas are shared. And I think we have a responsibility for the world, because I do believe that that the cooperative, especially worker-owned, are the right model for the future of the world. So why not? Not share this with the rest of the world, because I'm sure that if more people know the value of co-ops as businesses, as excellently managed businesses, as business for profit as well, why not? People will choose to make co-ops. I think that we grow more and more responsible of our environment, our fellow humans, our community, and no one would say no to a more responsible, more sustainable, and yet profitable way of business. So we do our part on Traveling University and Lane International, now Lane Arts. It's a call to all of you. Like, why not talk about co-ops once a week with someone who doesn't know it? And now we have one more person a week. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. And I have to say that I've had the opportunity to get to know you over the last year and a half or so, and as part of my work with ICA, I have also been involved with an initiative for Congress called 25 Voices, and a number of the members are here actually participating today, and I've gotten to know some of them through Anna. And one of the issues that has come up in me learning from them is that sometimes, for some of them, cooperatives is part of their life. They don't even know when they were children, young ones. They didn't know that it was labeled as a cooperative. It was just their way of life. So as they go into their formal education, they learn this thing called the cooperative, and they say, "Oh, I've been doing this all my life." Or that's what you call it. To me, it's family. To me, it's community, right? So, for some of us, depending on where you are in the world, it's not a big deal. However, it is, and I'm seeing this stream of questions that are coming in, and we're going to try very hard to address as many of them as possible. One of the questions, and I think it's sort of relevant to this because success comes in different forms, and for some there's more success than others, obviously. But the question is, so how do you make students? I'll take it a step further. It's not just students. When you associate students with the young or the youth, how do you make people, I guess, interested in cooperative education? And yes, we've been talking about financial literacy, and of course, Anna, with the entrepreneurship side, and the leadership, as we heard from Janet. So how does this happen? Clearly, there are challenges, and I know all of you can say something wonderful to this. And I'd like to give maybe a few minutes to some of you, and my panelists. I'd like to see a raise of hand. And go for it, Anna. Why don't you take the first few minutes? And I would like to also hear from Mr. Madlofo too, from Eswatini, because he's been very involved in this as well.
Yeah, I will give you a very short answer, and then someone else can go as well. For when I always say that I have my own company, cooperative or not, there's very few people that when you ask them, what do you want to be in your life? They say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like maybe you want to have a business in, I don't know, fashion, you can have a business on aeronautics, you want to be a fisherman, I don't know, whatever. But you don't say like, oh, I want to have my own company. No, you have a sector in mind. So this is a principle, right? So who would say, no, I want to be a cooperative member? Like, this is not a job. Like, this is the way to do a job, right? So it's the way to run a business. It's not a business in itself. Co-ops are not business in itself. It's a model that is the best model we know to manage something that works in a certain field. So for me, first of all, is how do we make sure that cooperative models are featured at the same level or higher on the ethics system in any business school or non-business school? Because why not? If there's people like in the MIT or Harvard that are generating the best or more prominent businesses around the world, why do they not know what a co-op is, right? Because they certainly know what a limited or an unlimited or a whatever is. Why not co-op? Because there's going to be very few people that you ask and say, what is your goal in life? And I want to be a co-op member. This is not a goal. Like it's something that happens to you later on, right? So for me, that's that. We need to be featured in spaces of startups. We need to be featured in business schools. We need to be featured in places where co-ops, again, wouldn't be maybe naturally there, but I think that we do that well.
You make a good point though, and I think everybody here agrees that yes, cooperatives most certainly needs to be raised, the level, the visibility, and the profile needs to be raised, right? So we have people like, and actually, I'm going to go to you, Gianni, to talk about this because you do you're involved in the leadership aspect of this with the youth in education. What challenges do you see? I mean, clearly the people who are taking your courses or classes from you, also understand the importance. So can you share with us a little bit of your experience about how you think the students that come through your door, how to raise their visibility or in the roles that they play in the communities they live in?
Yes, we think that we have some different kinds of education in different level. When we talk about cooperatives education from fundamental schools for basic schools, we need to have some methodological things to stimulate the learning. But when we talk about education, cooperative education for leadership, we need to have the other things. How can I say? When we work with the younger leadership in cooperatives, we use distancial things, and we use digital things to stimulate the education. But in formal education, we need to use and formal I don't know how can I say now, but I think that we need to pay attention for the ages and the different level for education and the different information that we need to use for the formal education. I don't know if I answered
you did.
Yeah,
you did, but I think there's another piece that could be missing here too. Well, not missing, but maybe lacking. And it is, again, this goes back to wanting to raise the visibility or to just, highlight the importance of cooperative education is maybe the partnerships angle, right? Partnerships with government or legislation, or different ways in which that you can really insert the cooperative model more into the formal side, which I think in Malaysia has been quite successful. And I'll have to go back, Mr. Madlofo. You have, your story is quite fascinating and inspiring, I think, to people who really want to start, because this is not something that's new to you, clearly. What challenges do you see, or have you seen, experienced in Eswatini in the work that you've done? Clearly you've had some success. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, thank you for that, Zuraidah. I think we've got quite a number of challenges, to be specific. For starters, it is the willingness of the school to participate in something that they feel like didn't bring value to the students. So bringing the teachers to make them understand. So we needed to then demonstrate through results, not through theory or a compelling story, but through results. And for the few schools that we started with, we needed to make sure that it works and it's a model of success. A lot of the challenge with that is why I was always looking towards the East, Malaysia. Can they be helping us? How did they go through this? Because we found out that this is the first concept in Africa to start with. So we wanted to learn from our other partners in terms of saying, how are they doing it? Into a point of, I think the biggest challenge that I can just highlight without taking much time is we needed to now decide how then do we keep safely the students' money. They are saving now. They started contributing from their pocket money, and the money grew exponentially. And we needed to think quickly, how then do we do this? Are we going to open a bank account? Should we to take us to issues of policies? We do not have rights to take money from other people. The central bank won't allow us to do that, and all this and that. And that is when we quickly thought, wait a minute, let's have a cooperative that we can sign an agreement with that will then underwrite the students and then take their money. Because that is when now they were really looking closely at us. How are you going to be managing the students' money? If you are going to be saving goes with interest. So we needed to then demonstrate that. And that is when we went to this cooperative, we talked to them and said, can you be giving a minimal interest to the students? And we had to really support that by saying it is part of our financial literacy program that our students should be able to see that when you save, you get interest. When you consume, you just finish what is in your hands, and that is it. So all that made the compelling argument for us to be partnering with them, and then we took them and they underwrote this, and they gave the students some statements for their savings and accounts. And then the next step, which is the last challenge, we have so many, and the next one was how do we utilize the savings to not just remain as money and giving it back to the students. And why were they saving in the first place? That is when the entrepreneurship was the answer to say we can actually use the savings to enable the entrepreneurship model.
So thank you very much. I think we should have a separate webinar what's completely on just the financial side of this. I think that would be very, very interesting. I'd like to bring this back since we have Congress coming up in December, and we're going to be certainly examining not just at Congress after. In fact, I think this is something we really should be talking about all the time to really address some of the issues that we're talking about today, which is the cooperative identity and how do we make it more mainstream, I guess, right, in our daily lives. And since education, a lot of times there's a tie to the youth and to the young. My question, and the other thing that I've learned from the group that I've been working with my 25 voices this year, is that I've learned that, we try to teach cooperation, but with the youth, a lot of times there's competition, right? There's a culture of competing with one another to get ahead, to be the best in school, to be the best in, whatever field that they choose to be in, whether it's a designer, whether it's to be a programmer or whatever. But then there's also this need to cooperate. And what I have learned is that the children or the youth who are drawn to cooperatives are those who find that competing is not necessarily the best way, but cooperating is. So I'd like to open this, for those of you who have, Bruno, I might start with you since you have a wealth of knowledge. Shaking his head. Anybody, I would love to hear, because this was a very interesting thing for me to learn. The cooperation versus competing, especially with the youth. Anna. Yeah, I'm going to ask you all to raise your hand the old-fashioned way.
I always do it physically because I'm super confused.
I know
I raise my hand like digitally. I'm always confused. So I think there needs to be a little bit of both, but this is like when I don't like competition when it becomes toxic, and I don't like competition when succeeding means that the rest is failing, because when we are put into the school system, you say, in order to reach a scholarship or an excellent or the first in your class means that you are competing against someone else, and there's no way that 2 or 3 people are at the same very top level at the school. That means that for you to succeed, others need to fail. And this becomes very toxic, because I think we can embrace each other's performance, right? So I think that's where the competition becomes something wrong. But in the other hand, I do think, and this is very Mondragoni of me, it's that competition is a good thing, right? Competition is good. We need to be excellent, because if you don't have an environment for competing, you may as well just, fall down in your chair, be comfortable with what you're doing, not innovate. I think competition brings that very spark of trying to be better for yourself, for the sake of yourself, for the sake of learning, but also for the sake of the fact that other people need a service and you're going to be the best in the world to do it. And as businesses, I don't think this is wrong. But I think, when it becomes toxic and it means that, people are not going to succeed and you're actually open to sabotaging all these people because you need to come in first. I think that's where the competition becomes unfair. But in the other hand, I'm always up for the excellence in management, and, competing a little bit is always nice as long as it's friendly. But obviously cooperation has proven, and there's studies that prove, that people that are in an environment of collaboration for success learn more too. So I think you need that very little bit of both. And I see Bruno there.
Go ahead, Bruno. I see your physical hand. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with what Anna has just said. In fact, when I was talking earlier, I didn't say that, you should not have competition. Of course, I was trying to say that you need to have cooperation above competition. And also, as Anna said, we have to define what we mean by competition. If we're talking about, the normal, let's say, physiological competition that there is in the world that is needed for people, like a stimulus to, in fact, as Anna said, not to sit back on your chair. This is okay, this is fine, and this is part of the entrepreneurial experience. But on the other hand, we have to also take into consideration that for decades we have been also faced with the predominance of economic theories and entrepreneurial theories that put competition as if that was the key to, let's say, to entrepreneurship, to the market, and so on. Let's say the Hobbesian model, by which man is a wolf for man. By the way, wolves are very cooperative together. But I mean, the idea that, you know, you have to always to bully the other and to be stronger than the other and so on. This is what I think the cooperative type of education can, let's say, can address and try to equilibrate. And this is why I also said that you need to have, it's not only a question about cooperatives, teaching about cooperatives, but teaching about cooperation. There is a stronger mission we have in the world than simply teaching about cooperatives, but also teaching about the cooperation itself. We are the best model to teach what cooperation is in itself as a value.
Well, the other part to that too is, you know, you're talking about competition or competing and cooperating among the youth or among the cooperative, within the cooperative movement. But I'm also, and we all know this, that the importance of competition or the entrepreneurship is to be able to compete in the market with the non-cooperatives, correct? My tongue is tripping this morning. But, you know, in order to be able to show that cooperatives are indeed, can be the best, can produce the best, either service products or what have you, with the non-co-op businesses in the world. So that is also important. So I'd like to sort of go into that for a little bit, and I open up to the floor. You know, what role does education play then in the reality of this when it comes to entrepreneurship, in trying to teach cooperatives?
Before you go there, can I just drop this line just on the competition part? Ours,
yes,
when
please.
we came to the competition, was we cooperate to compete effectively. That was our line when we were using with the students. The reason we are cooperating is because we want to be competitive. Because once we are divided ourselves, we cannot outstand the rest there. So that was our line. Just want to add that, for example, when we're encouraging this entrepreneurship, this cooperative among schools, we wanted to instill the culture of saving and the culture of being cooperative, even in the entrepreneurship part, was which school was able to cooperatively work together to outshine the others. So you have to cooperate so effectively to be competent.
Thank you. That you are absolutely right. And it can sometimes be, you know, not intuitive, I guess. I'm just going through the list of questions because what's interesting is there's a wonderful, the questions are flying. If you can just look in your chat box, but people seem to be responding to each other, which is phenomenal. Hang on one second. I'm just going through. All right, I'm going to take the question from. Okay, so my team in the back is asking, Peter Davis, raise your hand. You've been very active in the chat, and I'd like to ask if you'd like to join us in the room. Would you be willing to do that? Because you have many questions, which I think might help us. Andrea, can we bring him in? Peter, are you there? Hang on one second. All right, maybe we'll give, oh, there he is. Oh, fantastic. Hi, Peter. Andrea, can you unmute him, please? Or does he have to accept the invitation first, likely?
Is that, am I?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Well, look, first, let me just thank you for the opportunity to address this distinguished panel and very distinguished audience by the look of things. I've been around the movement for a long time. We're talking about young people. I'm one of the oldest, I guess, but I was young once. And nobody knows more than I do about the importance for young people of cooperative education, because although I've got a PhD today, I wouldn't have it at all without the London Cooperative Society and the British cooperative movement. So although my comments sound to be a bit critical and skeptical, but I'm absolutely 100% co-op. But what concerns me about these discussions is that, well, yes, of course, we know we've got the great ideas, we've got the good values, we've got the good principles, but we have to look hard at the world and say, why are we failing? I mean, the British movement, which had such a strong base, has been virtually eclipsed by the capitalist system. And to deny that is just to deny a reality. And if we look across North America, there's been some huge demutualizations. Across Europe, there's been huge failures. And if we look at the world out in the Southern Hemisphere, and indeed globally, what we see as far as government's concerned are huge shifts against human rights, movements towards populism, and working people moving to the right, moving to systems that are opposed to everything we stand for. And we need to ask ourselves, why have we failed? Not what wonderful people we are, but why have we failed? My quick answer to that, and I don't claim for a minute, this is not Moses with a 10 commandments coming down here, but one of my quick answers is that we have never really got the leadership within big co-ops to be committed to cooperatives. They tend to be committed to cooperative business. And we don't look at the social transformational aspects of cooperative education and philosophy of cooperation nearly enough. And we don't bring it in to our commercial messaging. One of the great successes, very brief, that the British Cooperative had recently was its cooperative bank, when it had a CEO that actually did that. And they put the entire banking community on the back foot in the UK. But that was quickly destroyed, and destroyed by a bureaucracy that was allegedly cooperative, because it was the cooperative movement that destroyed its own banks, its own bank. And we have to ask, where was cooperative education then? So, okay, sorry to be so dismal, and thank you very much. I think I should probably stop. I should probably stop.
Your contribution in the chat certainly, it clearly demonstrates your knowledge in the area, and I can completely appreciate, and I think many of us can, that we're all guilty of speaking within our own bubbles, right? We all know how great we are, and we all know, based on all our levels of experience, that cooperatives really work. We know that, and there are challenges indeed in trying to, and I'm in the communications field, so I always say that we need to tell our stories more. We need to do better in that. So, you know, that's an ongoing challenge, I think. But I would like to, real quick, because we are approaching the end, and I wanted to get one more question from the audience, but I wanted to give our panelists an opportunity to respond to Peter's comments. Does anybody like to take the floor? Anna, you know I love you, but hang on, let's see if anybody else has anything to say. I'm going to give the floor to Dato KAMARUDIN, please. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. I would like to respond to Ita just now, okay? And of course, definitely, I would like to share our experience in Malaysia, right? Because what is the aim of our school cooperative in Malaysia? This is the most important. So the aim of school cooperative is not whereby, okay, that to give dividend as high as possible to the school cooperative, because we understand that, okay, one of the aim of forming a cooperative is for the members to enjoy the dividend. That's definitely. But in the context of school cooperative in Malaysia, whereby we are looking more towards what's the idea, the aim and objective of the cooperative is to encourage cooperation and teamwork among the students. That's very important. Cooperation and teamwork. And of course, okay, to instill the democratic characters and element in young generation. Okay, and at the same time, okay, we are building leadership quality among younger generation. This is the most important thing, because when they in Malaysia, okay, one thing I would like to share with all the panelists and also, okay, the participants, okay, the board members in our school cooperative, okay, is together with the teachers and also the students. Okay, definitely. Okay, the chairman is the principal of the school, and then the secretary and also the treasurer is from the teachers, and also the committee members is from the student. The students will be the assistant of the secretary, assistant to the chairman, and they are helping together hand in hand. So with the students now, okay, they have a share, okay, they have the share, okay, but a very minimal share, okay. I could say that most probably about 10 ringgit, 10 US dollar per students. And with this collective of amount of money, then only, okay, they start a very small business, and after that they keep on keep on adding, and then at the end of the day, every year, okay, went through their AGM and they will declare their dividend. But as I mentioned just now, we want to mold the student in terms of their leadership in such a way that with the philosophy of democracy, the philosophy of leadership, and we are expecting these students, okay, later, okay, when they go into universities, and then after that they are working an entire life, and they believe that through the principle and the value of cooperative, okay, they will be a successful human being. Yeah, Zuraidah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. KAMARUDIN. So here's what I'm going to do. We have time for one more question, I think. And give me one moment. And I invite any of you, the panelists, if there's anything you'd like to contribute or add to this, because it is a very interesting conversation. Well, here's a question. I'm looking at the chat and the Q&A. I invite all of you to do the same thing too and respond directly if you feel that you can.
Yeah, there's a hand up, Zuraidah. I think Siboniso wants to say something.
Oh, thank you. Okay, the old-fashioned way works, right? Go ahead, Siboniso. Go ahead.
The old way of doing it.
I know, right? You wave.
So my question maybe to the panelists out there is probably rephrasing the question to say, what do you think would be the role of the established cooperatives in education, in cooperative education? The role of the existing cooperatives, the ones that are already there, what could be their role now in enhancing cooperative education in whether in schools, throughout the education chain? What could be their role?
That's a fantastic question. I'd like to hear the answer too. Yes, Anna.
I think lobby.
Again?
Like lobbying. Go ahead and contact the university and show great examples, because I was sharing also in the chat with someone, it's how can we make sure that people know about co-ops, you know, like if and this is something that I say in every panel I am, but sometimes I just say it not enough, I think. It's when we talk about co-ops, and I'm not sure if you've seen that, you know, when we talk about co-ops, sometimes we fail to feature them as super cutting edge, technologically oriented, very modern, agile, innovative, like everything that I see. Obviously I have Mondragon very close, and all the co-ops in the Basque Country are normally industrial, which is not maybe the norm, right? But it's like these people have cutting edge technologies that are leading sectors worldwide. So we need to feature companies that, yes, you know, they're impacting society, they are making development and everything, but at the end of the day, they're leading sectors. These people are the best of the best in their sector. And this is exciting. This is the kind of company that you need to be part of, right? So telling us about values and, you know, making sure that we're true to our principles is great, and that we impact in communities is great. But, you know, who doesn't want to be part of of a company that is transforming a sector? Plus, they're leading also in the social impact part. But it's like, I want to learn, I want to be transformative. And this is the kind of company that maybe young people, highly educated people that are coming out of the best colleges in the world and don't know what to do with their life, they join Facebook or you know, Google, thinking, okay, you know, I can put my talent to work here. You know, feature the co-ops like this because they exist. It's like not to make up a story. It's like a real co-op is leading this everywhere. You know, in all the countries I talk to, in all the sectors I talk to, when I go to the congresses of the ICA or meet young people at the ICA Youth Network, they're saying, you're doing something that no one knows about. So when we talk about, you know, go to the universities, go to the educational institutions in your community and tell them, you know, this is a real thing happening, show them, and maybe even volunteer to go there and talk.
But then I think it goes both ways too, right?
Yeah, but what can we do was the question.
Oh, absolutely. But I think what Sibanense was saying also is that, you know, we have these young cooperatives who are, I mean, who are either starting or want to start out, who need help in some way. And then you have the Mondragons of the world, right? Or the bigger cooperatives who need to come, I guess is what you're saying, is that there needs to be partnership on both sides, top, bottom, top, to help the smaller cooperatives. My background is in rural electrification and building electric co-ops in rural parts of the world, where I'm not an engineer, but I've seen these little co-ops, you know, succeed and last for decades and decades because of the partnerships of other co-ops around them. So clearly, that's a model that will work. So this is fantastic. Does anybody else have anything to comment on that? And I think I might have to wrap up.
Yes, I'd like to do a comment.
Please. Yes, please. I was hoping you'd say something.
Yes, I agree with Anna. And I think that partnership is important to improve the cooperative education. In Brazil, for example, we have the national base for a common curriculum for the education, fundamental education. And there we can talk about skills. I don't know how can I say, but co-ops skills for the small people, for the younger, yes. So, and when we talk about the Cooper Jovem in Brazil, we talk to the cooperatives. You are help the schools to use your curriculum and improve some cooperative skills in the child and for the younger people. And I think too that the cooperative governance needs to think about the importance for the cooperative education and put this in their planning and their strategic planning to the cooperatives and do things to make projects about cooperative education for their members, their employees, and for the society. This is my opinion about.
Thank you. That is, I feel like we could talk for a long time about this. I think I say that with every webinar that I moderate, because I just like sitting in a room full of really wonderful people to talk with. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to wrap this up, because it is already almost 10 minutes past our time. But before we go, I've been told that we have one last question for a poll. So I'd like everybody to exercise your fingers to just make your selection. And the last question is, has this webinar contributed to your knowledge in the role of cooperatives in education? And we'll compare this to the first question that you were asked. Has this webinar contributed to your knowledge on the role of cooperatives in education? I'm going to submit mine because I know I learned some things today. And as of now, I'm very pleased to say that normally during these webinars, the participant level tends to drop as the time goes, but it has not dropped one bit throughout the whole conversation. So that is a testimony to all of you. And I will say also that the chat, I've been told that I'm reading my instructions from the people behind the curtain, as I say, that we will actually keep the chat apparently, because there's so many questions, and you guys have done the job of, for many of us, each of you have been answering and talking with each other and answering each other's questions, which is fantastic. I'm going to wait for the poll response to come back. I think many of you are probably still responding. Here we go. Well, this is good. 77% of you, including myself, says that now I have more information. 9% no, I already knew how important cooperatives are in education. 14% somehow, which means that you just have to come back to more of these sessions that we have, because you probably will learn more. I learn more each time. I think I know a lot, but clearly I don't. And so this is great. I will, as I hate to say this, but I think we have to say goodbye. But before we do, I think there's some synergy here. Mrs. Sibonisa, I know you and Dato KAMARUDIN will probably have a lot to talk about and exchange information. I think that's fantastic. Anna, you're everywhere and always available to people for information. And Jenny, I'm very glad to have met you today. Your students in Brazil are wonderful. And Bruno, as always, your leadership is very treasured. So thank you everybody for being here. And Andrea, Georgia, and Inez, this cannot happen without you, as we all know. Thank you very much for your support behind the curtain. And this will be recorded. So when this comes up, share and with all your colleagues and your friends, and so they can also learn how wonderful cooperatives are. So until next time, and see you at Congress. Yes, bye everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.